Okay, version two of how to build a visible and profitable business in conversation with my special guest, who I'm going to introduce. But listen, if you are watching this and on the other link, we got booted out. And I don't know what happened, but the tech was not taken tonight. So I am attempting to do this live again. So if you can see me and you are live on LinkedIn, please drop a note, say something in the comments, say hello, just so I know that it's working properly this time while I wait for my guest to arrive, to come back into the room because she's already arrived. As soon as she does, we're going to get straight into it on this topic of how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. StreamYard, I am not happy with you. I am not happy with you for messing up the tech in this recording, but we are going to make the most out of the time that we have. So it's just not working tonight. It's telling me again that I've lost access to LinkedIn. So this is not happening tonight. And I don't know why this is not happening tonight. So if you can see me, let me know. This is not good. This is not good, right? If you're watching this and this is your first time watching this isn't how we roll normally, right? This is all slick normally, but today the technology is not working with me. So I am hoping that we are live on LinkedIn. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to invite my guest on stage and we're just going to roll with it because I can see some of you saying that you can see, but you can't hear, or you can hear, but you can't see. But listen, I'm hoping this is all done properly. And then afterwards, you can watch the replay. Anything that you've missed, you should be able to watch the replay in full without tech disruptions if this is going to keep messing up like this. I'm just hoping that it's going to work. But okay, I'm going to invite my guest on stage today because we're just going to get straight into it because this tech has killed some of our time and I really want to hear from her tonight. So tonight we are speaking, I am in conversation on this series on how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. I'm in conversation with one of my clients, one of my former clients, an amazing, awesome woman called Jennifer Laidlaw, who is a clarity catalyst for senior corporate and C-suite executive women. Mildred, what is a clarity catalyst? I'm so glad you asked because I'm going to ask Jennifer that very same question herself. So please help me welcome Jennifer to this live session right now. Hey, Jennifer.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, we are struggling with tech right now and it keeps losing and reconnecting on LinkedIn. But I think it's streaming fine on Facebook and YouTube because we're on all three platforms at the same time. So hopefully we'll get the best of all the wisdom you're about to share with us tonight somewhere on the internet. So, but good to have you on here, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm great. Good to be here.
Okay, fantastic. Let's get straight into it with define clarity catalyst because it's an awesome title. It's really great, but somebody's watching this and they're thinking, what is that? So tell us exactly what it is that you do, Jennifer.
Yeah, it's a really important question, and essentially, I think in a world that is so high speed and that is full of all kinds of information, we often don't have access to the clarity that we need to be able to really get in touch with the wisdom that will help guide us through life. So essentially, I think of it as, helping women with the inner game of life, creating the life that they love effortlessly, with clarity.
Oh, the inner game of life. That is interesting in itself. I definitely want to talk more about that inner game. But let's take it back to the beginning, like I like to do. And in fact, before we take it back to the beginning, this episode, this show, this series is all about how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. So it's really important for me that we define the word visible because everybody has their own definition of it. So what is your definition of visible, Jennifer? And are you visible?
Well, it's a great question because visibility is something that we all have a relationship with in all aspects of our lives. And for me, I did not have a lot of visibility in my career. as the sort of person front and center. I've spent a lot of my career, most of it, working with CEOs in large organizations and really being the person that's supporting the achievement of their legacy, of their goals and dreams. And so, as well as the work within the organization. And so visibility for me was a means to an end of connection and networking and being able to be connected to the people who could help you get things done. And then more recently, it's been more about my own being more out in front to be able to share the message that I think is so critical for women, so that they can show up in the corporate world as themselves in their full awesomeness, and just help them live from that place more of the time. And that's required my own visibility to take a different place, and really kind of put me out of what I would call my made up comfort zone to really connect more deeply and more broadly with women, to be able to help to get that message to them, so that they can see what's possible for them.
I love that. That's powerful. So, in order to help women to become the best that they can be, you had to step into your own greatness in a sense through being visible. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the only thing that's comfortable for me is really understanding that it is in service. It is not about me or my brand or um, my business. It really is about how can I show up in a way that connects with as many women as possible to ensure that they can see a clear path forward to their continued success without all of the struggle and their survival that we've had over the last many years.
And I want to talk about those specific things a bit further on down the conversation. But can you remember your earliest memory with visibility? I mean, is it like for me, for example, I didn't know it was visibility or invisibility, but I know that I shied away from the limelight from very young all the way up to adulthood. It wasn't something that I thought was for me. I didn't know I was not being visible. But what is your earliest memory of the whole being visible and not being visible?
My earliest memory of visibility came from I from a young age. I actually rode competitively. I rode quarter horses, and so it's a what I would call an individual sport versus a team sport. And so I did have a lot of eyes on me. And when I started in that world, I did not have the best horse, and so my visibility was really showing up, giving it my all, and often losing. So it was something that I enjoyed, and I got better and better at, and I really I enjoyed obviously being in that space. But again, it was often about my ability to bring out the best in the horse rather than necessarily the focus being on me. And so that was probably the earliest that I really understood what it was to be in front of people in order to be compared and judged and considered through other people's eyes.
And was that a good experience for you? What did it teach you? How did it shape your character?
It was not a good experience at the beginning, but it because I was being compared to as a little person to, and that was the whole point of the sport. But I was being certainly compared to people who had a lot more understanding, a lot more training, and so what it did was it really sparked in me a desire to really commit to that sport. And I did that. Actually, I hired a coach, I hired a trainer, or my family did, and I trained every day, and ended up moving and living in the United States for a period of time when I was quite young. And so it really was something that ingrained in me a desire to want to be at my best in my game, rather than necessarily being visible. But it certainly was a way of experiencing being in the eye of the public.
That I can relate to that desire to want to be your best kind of thing. It's quite a driver in a sense, especially if you add to it, as you say, the whole aspect of doing it in service for others and not just for yourself. You know, so that's really interesting. Now, we are actually live on LinkedIn, even though StreamYard has been an incredible nightmare at the moment. So the comments are not showing up directly on here, but I can just a few hellos. I can. We got people tuning in from Greece. We got Keith Phaedra from Greece. I see you, Keith. I see you, John, Monica, Yolanda, Manushka. We got Billy from Italy, Michelle, Fazine. Oh, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for confirming that you can actually see us live and hear us. If you have any questions for Jennifer as I go on, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'm just gonna just work both screens to make it work, you know. So okay, so Jennifer, so you had this early on, you had this career. What did you want to be? Is that what did you want to do that as your future, or was it something you fell into? And if not, what did you want to be as a little girl when you grew up?
I didn't really know. I did for sure have the horse bug for a long time,
Mm.
and but I certainly knew that I wanted to go on and get more education. And so when I went to university, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did have a really incredible professor who encouraged me to get my master's degree, and it was in a master's of arts in education around feminist studies and gender relations in education. And it's wild for me to look back and think, how did that ever happen? Because it certainly was something that helped to propel my career in a different direction now. And it makes no sense what happened after that. But when you look as of today, you really see things kind of coming together, because my career really ultimately became about amplifying women's voices, and ensuring that women were getting the spaces to be able to speak out and share and feel comfortable and confident in what they have to offer to the business.
Hmm. Did you feel like your voice was amplified in your career?
Well, I had a career filled with, I would say, change and transformation, and so I was lucky enough to, again, I worked for the CEO, I think almost, or the equivalent, almost my entire career, and was given a lot of incredible, large change to actually lead. And as a result, I feel like I did have the ear of people who were able to support what I was trying to accomplish most of the time. And then, but I was also an outlier. I was a disruptor in a lot of these spaces. And so there were times that when my quite strong voice, especially early in my career, wasn't always invited and not always welcomed. And so I very quickly understood what it felt like I was successful, but I never felt like I fit in. And I always felt like I needed to be really careful about how passionate I am, um, how direct I can be, that there was always a need to kind of cover and perform in a lot of ways in order to be heard. And I did understand the nuances of that, because it's absolutely true that we need to be able to be listening in a way that we can hear what is necessary in that moment. But I definitely aligned my experience with other women and other people with different lived experiences who just didn't fit into those systems and structures. And that really is where my passion kind of came from, is wanting to ensure that not only my voice, but the voices around me, who were often not being considered or listened to, but that were saying things that were incredibly meaningful and important to be said.
Hmm. I love that. So, can you give us like a practical example of what this looked like? first, like some of the things that you would, what happened when you tried to challenge the status quo, so to speak? Were you shushed? Were you kind of, like what happened? And then also like, how did you cope with having to essentially modify yourself in order to fit into the environment that you were in at the time?
Yeah, like I have um a very interesting experience, because at the same time that I had incredible privilege. I was again working for and beside the CEO or the deputy minister or the executive director in each situation, and so I did have access to power and privilege. I think what I particularly in some organizations that are very large, there's a lot of unspoken rules, unwritten rules, and very polarizing agendas that you need to be aware of if you're going to be successful. And so the way that I navigated that was with the power of my network. I had a very big and very strong network. I saw the incredible value that other people and their talents can provide in your career. And so I learned not to go up against something in a really direct way. I always looked for the way kind of around it, in order to grease the wheels and get people involved, and really invite people into the conversation rather than being seen to be difficult, which is what you'd be called, and or not strategic, or not understanding the scope of the situation. And so I think I learned a lot of navigation skills that really did serve me well. And again, I had that privilege of working in the system, but I certainly experienced a lot of the time that there, it had to come in a certain package. And if you weren't aware of what that package needed to look like, you were shut down really quickly.
Okay, so how long did this last, this period of your career where you were adapting, adjusting, learning how to navigate the corporate world essentially? How long was that process for?
I think my whole career, and I think, like, I think the thing that made it, as I mean, I had incredibly powerful and meaningful experiences in all of the work that I've done. And that was because the leaders, the CEOs that I was working with, they were the most incredible people, the most incredible humans, the most incredible leaders. And so when you are able to really connect to and align with that vision, and when you're supporting the development of that legacy, then you can shut out the noise of the others, who are not wanting to get on the bandwagon. And I think that was the thing that kept me going in every single role that I was in, was that I saw, there were leaders in the Ontario Public Service who were just incredible visionaries who really wanted things to go well. And so I helped them to navigate that system in lots of different ways. With the regulator, again, an opportunity to tap into a vision of the CEO that was so progressive, and so well intended. And so that was like really easy to take the good with the bad kind of thing. And then again, in my last role at a large bank, again, like just the power of the leadership being so aligned with their own purpose and really wanting to do good in the world, it makes the noise in the background just far less important. And it's ironic, because that's exactly now, maybe not ironic, it makes sense that that's exactly now what I do with women, is I help them to take all of that noise, tone it down, and allow it to kind of fade into the background, so that they can focus on what's actually important to them and how they can move their goals forward.
So that's that clarity that you speak of, helping so quiet the noise and gain clarity in the process.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Because we can get
Mhm.
hyper focused on what's right in front of us and what's the loudest. The greasy whatever it is
Mhm.
gets the attention, and that can be very distracting when we're
Mhm.
trying to be of service, when we're trying to contribute to true value, and advocate on our own behalf. When we can let that become the noise fade into the background, it's just so much easier to navigate um, on our own terms.
Mm, okay, so that clarity, there's another word that you use quite often in your posts, and I know it's something that's important to you, and that's the word thrive, thriving. So how does clarity relate to thriving for you?
Well, clarity is a lot of unlearning. And we have been
Mm,
taught through our whole lives that we have to work hard, hustle, grind, be someone else or be the best of who we are. Self development is a crazy concept that we are not already whole and good and perfect. No, and of course, skill development is really critical, but
mhm,
self development um, is a game of running on a hamster wheel and trying to be better and better and better, because we live in a world of comparison. And so thriving is
mm,
letting go all of that, really connecting to who we are, and connecting to essentially the intelligence of life, and knowing that we're going to be okay, letting our heart rate slow down a little, getting a bit of space, letting our nervous
mhm,
system relax and do its job, and being able to focus much more clearly without adding on. So it's a subtractive model. It's about really unlearning all the stories that we've told ourselves about what we need to do to be good enough, to be able to show up, to be confident, and all of that is natural. Well-being, resilience,
mhm.
confidence is all natural within us. It's that we cover it over, and we create um, so much difficulty just to connect with who we are, what is important to us, and how we'll actually use that and leverage that to move forward.
Mm. I love that. That's so good. And you're particularly passionate about leveling the playing field in a corporate world for in order for women to thrive. Why is this so important to you, this mission?
Yeah, it is so important because of some of what I've talked about. What I see is that not only is it necessary for women to have access to the work they want to do, the work they're really good at, the type of career that they want to have. Um, we as humans, as citizens, as consumers, really need to have them in those businesses so that we can benefit from having full diversity in our corporate environments, so that we're getting products and services that make sense for all of us and not just one group of people. And so that is really important to me. And I feel like, well, I've seen countless times that either you fit in or you don't. And little things along the way can really help you to to see what's possible, and therefore then start to build out your belief in a career that you could have in those big environments. And I know for me, I've had mentors and sponsors, many of whom have been men, who have made all the difference to me. But I needing to see that it's possible, and that I can thrive in that environment and not just aim to survive. That's really critical. Or we're not only just seeing them self-select out, but they're also being pushed out because they don't know how to succeed in those environments. And so my goal is certainly to help them to see what's possible in those environments, so that they can have the career and the life that they love.
Mm. So there's a lady watching tonight, probably, most likely, or on replay, and she's saying, I love that, Jennifer. I'm in a workplace where I really feel like I can't be myself. I can't bring my full self to the table. So, what's your advice for her? How do you get past that? Is it a case of, well, hide yourself until you get home, or what would you advise her?
Yeah, that's I would say a very common experience of almost everyone in our working world. We know that there is a term called covering, a work that was done probably almost 10 years ago, and that almost everyone covers to some extent some aspect of their personality, but we see it more when we add on intersections to our identities. And women of color, women with disabilities, they are all experiencing it in quite significant ways. And it's not an easy fix. I mean, you can't fix the environment. Um, I think you can contribute to the systems being worked on, because that's what we need to do. Not fix women, we need to fix systems. Um, and you can have a role to play in the evolution of the organization and its culture. It's the way that it creates inclusion and belonging, and equity. But also, you can learn how to take care of yourself. And I think that that's the part that's the most important. We really don't control anything out in our external world, and how I don't believe we control a lot for ourselves, but we do have the ability to really better understand who we are and how our experience of life is created. And the more we have that, the more we really understand that inner game, that will completely change your experience of your outer world in those environments.
Mm. Okay, so that inner game is important, as you call it, having that self-esteem, that whatever it is that keeps you going internally to affect your external environment.
Yeah,
Okay.
like there's
Mhm.
lots of things that we kind of misunderstand about relationships, about culture, about work settings, that we can, once we have a better sense of who we are, um, and how we are kind of aligned with the system, we can leverage that in those situations, not take them quite as personally, not see them in quite the same way, and navigate in a much more intentional, more proactive way, so that we're not being confronted with those kinds of experiences so much of the time.
Mhm. Okay, that's good. So this is how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn, a special live series I'm doing this month. In case you're tuning in and you're wondering what's going on, so I am in conversation with Jennifer Laidlaw, my special guest for tonight. She's a clarity catalyst for senior corporate and C-suite executive women. So if you have any questions around that, or if you're aspiring to be in a C-suite executive, she's got decades of experience in this area. So drop your questions in the comments, and of course, reach out and connect with her after we're done. But so Jennifer, just so to switch it up towards the business side. So you were in corporate for over 20 years, and then you recently made the switch to business for yourself. Tell us about that transition. What led you to that point?
Yeah, so as I said, I'd been in a role in various different organizations, mostly in very large organizations, for my whole career, doing massive change transformation work. And I had gotten to the point where I spent 7 years with one of the best leaders that a person could be given the opportunity to work with. And I loved every minute of it. But ultimately, I knew that I was not a banker. And so I really had been thinking about how to go out and and do the work that I was doing inside organizations for most of my career, but in a way that would better support women directly. And so
Mhm.
I've been doing a number of things, working with a number of universities to support their efforts around inclusion and diversity primarily. I'm also continue to work with the 30% Club in Canada, the chapter in Canada. It actually is a campaign that was started in the UK back in 2010 to get a floor of 30% women on boards and in C-suites. And so I continue to do that work here, and then I have been just very naturally working with senior executive women and men in the corporate world, also some CEOs of large nonprofits, to really help them to gain the clarity they need to create the life that they love, effortlessly. And
Mhm.
so I have been doing that, about 10 to 20% of my time over the last couple of years, and really enjoying it and wanting it to grow. And so I started to think about, how will I grow my business? I've been fortunate enough to have a number of professional coaches along the way who've helped me to kind of move my business forward as it started to kind of form and create a bit more formally. And then kind of took the plunge about 2 months ago to actually try to get um, a little further ahead, and which is when I reached out to you, and we started talking about how to actually bring this in a more official capacity to life.
Mm. Oh, that's wonderful. So you're in the first few months, really officially, of your business, which is all very exciting. So how did you find the courage to step into your own business, by the way? Because again, there's a lady watching, or a guy, and they're in a corporate job and they've been thinking about leaving to start their own business, but it's a scary move. So how did you make that transition on a practical level and find the courage to do it?
Yeah, I think that I believe it's just something you get more and more comfortable about. Like, I certainly understand that comfort is something that we kind of make up. We decide what our comfort is going to, what's required for our comfort along our lives. And I think I've reinvented myself in my career several times. I've left roles to go to another job that didn't have a lot of security, that ended up working way better than I could have imagined. I've had lots of people saying, like, what are you doing? And that care about me, saying, like, what are you doing? Why are you leaving that great job with that great pension? And I've really focused on um, the joy in life rather than the safety net, because I don't believe it's safe anyway. And so I think I've kind of built up the muscle of being comfortable with taking a chance on, and taking a chance on me, and it working out. And so I certainly had lots of evidence that I would have a good shot at making this work. And I certainly have a great network. I have incredible people in my life that are incredibly supportive. And it just felt like it was the time. It was the right time. And so yeah, I think it was really obvious to me, and it wasn't all that scary. And then you start doing the work, and it does unbalance you at times. It does make you kind of
Mhm.
experience things quite differently, because when you're used to working in a large team with lots of people, it feels really different than when you then are working with yourself. And that's why I certainly have found that the
Mhm.
thing that's continued to move me forward is having people, experts around me, who can continue to guide and support and fill in the gaps along the way.
Mm. I love that. And you've spoken about your network quite a bit and the power of networks and how that supported you in your career and now in your business. How do you go about building a powerful network?
Sir, I think the answer is service. I think from the get go, I have learned the incredible value of helping someone get what they need or what they want, and really approaching relationships that way. And as a result, I've just had this. I've been blessed incredibly by a lot of men and a lot of women who um, are able to give generously, because they know how much I appreciate it, and how much I want to also support them. And so I spent most of my career building a network from the perspective of being in service rather than getting something in return. really being abundant with my generosity, which I've learned from a number of incredible women along the way, as well. And, you know, seeing how, you know, I could name a number of really senior CEOs who have really demonstrated the power of taking a moment to really dig deep and be of service, and how that can pay off along the way. So I think that we often think of networking as sharing of yourself, you know, being on display, talking about what
Mm.
you do. I really think networking is figuring out what the other person is doing, listening really deeply, to understand where they're at, getting to know what they care about, and then being in a position to be able to help them with something. That's a really powerful way to build a network.
Mm. And that's like building real relationships, you know, and it's kind of like the same way you build a personal brand. It takes time, you know, it's not an overnight thing. Sometimes it's that, and it takes time, it takes service, you know. So if you're showing up on LinkedIn and you're giving back via content, you're actually helping people, you start to build a powerful network in the same way online, you know. So which is really great. So I can identify with some of that. So let's talk about LinkedIn, because this is about LinkedIn, building a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. So prior to kind of deciding to focus on LinkedIn, what was your relationship with social media in general like?
I really didn't have much of a relationship. So I was, of course, on LinkedIn, and I did do some reposting. I did a little bit of posting here and there, mostly focused on the work that I was interested in, which tended to be in the inclusion, diversity, business leadership space. Um, but no, I wasn't that visible. I have you know, an Instagram account that's only a few years old, and just dabbled with that. And I actually stopped using Twitter completely for obvious reasons over obvious to me, the last few years. It just didn't serve me well. But I was really interested most in LinkedIn, and knew that that was where the most of my community was. I mean, I think the thing that I love most is connecting with people. And anyone who knows me knows I love to collaborate, and I love to connect with people, and I love to connect other people. And so that aspect of it was really appealing to me, and I was able to navigate it from that perspective. But it tended to be a little more behind the scenes.
Hmm. Okay. So what was the scariest thing about LinkedIn for you, if any, you know, before you dive deep into it?
Well, it is. I mean, it is being visible, right? We know it goes back to, you know, my days with the horses. As soon as people can see you, they can judge you, they can criticize you, they can compare you, they can have all kinds of things to say about you. And I do really take my the people in my network. I take them very seriously, and I respect them very much. And so I also felt a bit of pressure, that I wanted to keep that network, to at least the extent to which I could be of service to them.
Mm, okay. So on the one part, you're kind of concerned about potentially being judged, you know, because you're out on display. And then on the other side, it's nurturing that network that you've spent so long building up, keeping them and keeping
Yeah.
them happy, and possibly adding new ones in the process.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
that was the tipping point for me, was realizing that being silent wasn't helping anyone. You know, I have things that I
Mm.
want to share, that I believe will make a huge impact. Well, I know will make, and I've seen time and again, will make a huge impact on women's ability to show up in their life in their awesomeness more of the time. And sitting with that, and not sharing that, starts to feel not helpful.
Mm, mm, mm. That you know, I'm big on that kind of stuff, and I love that phrase. Being silent is not helping anyone. Absolutely, because my definition of being visible is being seen, being heard, and being remembered. So you have to step out. And like you say, what you have inside of you, that's going to change somebody else's life. But we have first got to believe that we have something inside of us, and every single one of us does. And then the next step is, let's get visible. Let's start sharing that publicly in a way that it can impact people, which is what you're doing now. So you've been on LinkedIn actively now for about 2 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
What's it been like for you? What was the expectation and what was the reality?
I'm not sure what my expectation was. I tried not to go there too much, but I don't know that I know that I was really pleasantly impacted by how supportive a number of people in my community have been. That was really nice to see, and I've also been very impacted by the number of people who, when I see them in person, say to me, "Oh my gosh, I've been following you on LinkedIn and I love your posts, and this one really spoke to me." But I haven't seen them they haven't liked anything, they haven't engaged in the comments. And so that to me has been really rewarding, to think, I don't care about the comments. I mean, I love them, because then I know what's actually meaningful to you as the listener. But what it really touched my heart to hear that it was having an impact on individual people. That was really, it was really great to see.
Mm. And it does that. What you described there are the vast majority of LinkedIn users, the lurkers. That's at least 80% of people on LinkedIn. They watch, they observe, they maybe once in a while like, but they don't comment, and they're just there. And that's okay. That's all part of the community of LinkedIn. But the consistency of being visible means that you're being seen, heard, and remembered by all kinds of people. Some you will never know how much you've impacted them through your posts, which is really amazing. So, where does LinkedIn fit in now for your business? So we're talking about building a visible and profitable business. What role have you now discovered for LinkedIn in the process of building your business?
Yeah, I think it will be a really important part of my business, because it is a way to engage with a community that I know will continue to grow, um, and to amplify also and profile various things that are happening that I think women want to know about. And so I feel like it will continue to be a place to not only share what others are doing, celebrate success that is really fun to be able to highlight and profile, but also to continue to explore some of the way in which we believe life actually unfolds for us, that we can have a much easier life with knowing a bit more about the way in which we can experience our life day to day. And so that to me is, the opportunity to have to spark those conversations, to explore, to have people kind of give a second thought to something they thought was real, that maybe they may have been telling themselves for years and years. And if they were able to let that go, it could open up a whole new world for them. So that's exciting from my perspective.
Mm, yes. And what do you love most about LinkedIn now, in this whole process of us working together to build your LinkedIn visibility?
I think that the thing I love the most is what I loved about networking and connecting with people from the get-go. I love it. I love people. I have an extrovert side to me, absolutely, and it's a great place to be connected to people, to celebrate what's happening for them, and to support them on their journey. And so I think it's a great way to really focus on our business, to focus on our career, but also have that personal aspect. And because I really believe that we're stronger together. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This has been a bit of a nightmare tech wise because it's been cutting in and out of LinkedIn, and then the comments haven't been streaming. But I do see that there are some comments, questions that have come through in the chat on LinkedIn now that I've jumped over. And now we've got like a few minutes, so I'm just gonna quickly touch on Iffy's one before we round up and this conversation. And Iffy, thanks for sharing that. Iffy's got quite a few questions in here, but she's interested to know why you chose to focus on women, Jennifer, in your business.
Because I've seen that women in school tend to do very well, and we are taught to put our head down, to work hard, to play nice in the sandbox, and that we'll be rewarded. And we are in school. We get better marks often, more consistently. We're graduating more women in universities we have for maybe 30 years. But that isn't how the business world works. And so there seems to be a set of rules that aren't being shared with a lot of women in large organizations and in corporations. And they have incredible talent. They have a lot to offer, but they get in their own way often, and they aren't given access to the rules and the ways of being that certainly more dominant groups get to enjoy. And so I think, again, men have been incredibly supportive for me in my career, and I believe that they're there to support and to create more inclusive workplaces. But women in particular, I think, really have a lot still to overcome in order to be seen in the same way as men, and particularly as at certain stages of our career. Younger women in that late 20s, early 30s are kind of too young, even though they're not. And women that get to like the 40 and like late 40s, 50s are now getting too old, which they're not. That those conversations never come up for men. And so I think there's just a real opportunity to really support them to, again, live the life that they love.
I love that, and even that in itself, there's just so much more we can talk about, the different rules and what we're socialized into, how we're socialized into behaving as women from a young age. But because of time, we are gonna wrap it up. But so I want you to leave us with a final thought or a piece of advice, Jennifer, in terms of, so somebody's listening to this. She's pretty inspired, whether about what you said about your own journey in the corporate world or about clarity or about LinkedIn. What's the final piece of advice you would give somebody in terms of taking the next step from here? What should you do? You've heard me. They've heard you. What's the next thing that they should do basically from here?
Well, I think the best thing that you can do for yourself is start to really realize how awesome you already are, and sort of drop the gloves of self-development. You got what you need. We don't need to fix women any longer. And it's all about, how do you show up and sort of co-create the life that you want. And that's really not a life where you're focused on surviving and trying to get it all done and having to do more and adding on all the different strategies and practices. It's more about taking it back, relaxing into what is already naturally you, and really allowing that to shine through. And I think with clarity, which is the conversation I like to have, it really brings the space for women to see how they can be who they really are at their very best more of the time.
I love it. Relax into who you already are. That's powerful. That's really powerful. So, and that is a perfect place to end this great conversation. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with us tonight and bearing through the tech challenges, and sharing your wisdom and everything that you've shared with us tonight. How can people get hold of you if they want to find out more?
The best way is to find me on LinkedIn, and I believe it's just linkedin.com/in/Jennifer Laidlaw, and send me a note. I'm also my email is Jennifer Laidlaw at bell.net. So send me a note and let's have a conversation.
I love it. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you again on LinkedIn. All right. Take care. Okay. And we are gonna sign up because we are at the top of the hour. And thank you so much for watching and joining tonight. Jennifer, so many takeaway things that she said tonight, powerful stuff, including the fact that being silent is no longer serving us. It's not serving us, it's not serving you. So if you've been watching this and you've been silent, whether that's in your career or in your business and you're not visible, now is the time to take action. As Jennifer said, take action now. Go in, realize that all that you need is already inside of you. You are already great. Now let's go and share that with the world and make an impact. So thank you so much for tuning in. As I said, in this whole month of June, I am doing a series of how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. So I'm live every Monday evening with a special guest and every Tuesday afternoon on my own with a solo episode. So please plug in, check back in with me tomorrow for the solo episode and come back here next Monday for another session. But and if you want to know more about how to be visible for yourself and you want to talk to me about that, send me a message. I'm doing a challenge next month in July, visible and profitable 30-day LinkedIn challenge, which is going to be absolutely brilliant to help you get the momentum you need on LinkedIn. So if you're interested in being a part of that challenge with a group of amazing women, as you heard from Jennifer today, your network is important, especially if you have your own business. You have got to be plugged into a network that can support you, that can understand you, that can high five you when needed. And that's the kind of networks that I like to create around the Visible Women Tribe. So send me a message. Let's connect. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you're doing. And I'll see you back here if you can make it tomorrow lunchtime. If not, I'll see you back here on Monday with my final guest for this whole episode of how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. You are not going to want to miss this. All right. Take care. Have a good night.